ready then.
That's Janice?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
And you're on the Stone Valley Loop, right?
Correct, 12545. Thank you.
Whenever you're ready, Dan.
Okay.
All right, it is, I'd like to start the Stoneybrook Gateway Advisory Committee meeting. It is 3:03 on August 10th. We have a quorum. In attendance is myself, J.T. Thomas, Janice Lancaster, Regina Stacy, and Zig Zukowski. Missing is Thomas Roller. Just real quick, I'd like to just kick the minutes down until a later item, because I do want to discuss something while April is here. It's come to my attention, and you have in front of you here, and I don't know if you give her that extra copy right there.
This one?
Yes. Supervisor Feinberg and myself do go through the expenditures and what's billed against the 004 account. And there are several legal expenses that have been charged to this account that I strongly disagree with. And this is an issue that's not a new one. This has come up over the years, and we've had to do these battles. In fact, at one point in time, 2 years ago, there were $35,000 worth of charges to the 004 fund that we reviewed and disputed. And they got nasty enough that I actually had to threaten to go to the Attorney General's office to request an inquiry as to what was going on. Then Peter Altman was the district manager at that point in time, and he came to me and asked me at the end of that meeting, please don't do it, I'll resolve it. And we did get credited back $25,000, but what we found is that late at the end of the fiscal year, things were being charged to the 004 account at the last minute. And that was for the most part from the previous chairman, let's put it that way. The issue here is that we're getting charged legal bills. We have our own attorney. And some of these bills were generated because of an inquiry from a resident in Stoneybrook who has no authority, has no position, and just called Gateway Services with a question. In my opinion, and our attorney's opinion, that inquiry should have been either forwarded toward this committee or to the HOA board. It should not have started a process of where a legal bill was generated. If staff at Gateway Services generates a legal bill and is started by the staff, that should be a gateway bill. We pay to the Gateway Services. We pay the full boat. Maybe Pelican doesn't, but we do, just like anywhere else. In the past, when we had this problem, I asked point blank at a district meeting, and I said, name me one other community that has ever been charged a legal bill when someone on staff or a board member asked the attorney a question. When was a legal bill ever generated when a resident called about a question? And there was none. They couldn't give me one because we had the 004 fund available. They're tapping into it. I do not believe. There are a couple of charges here that we initiated, and I agree with those. But there are others here that had nothing to do with this committee or the HOA board, and we have legal charges here. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's enough that it got our attention, and we want it to stop.
Are they the parking issues?
Some of them are.
Yeah, it's nothing that's been engaged, the attorney has not been engaged by me.
Well, there was a request, I thought, from you for emails. And all those emails, we had those. We have those on file.
I have not requested anything from the attorney other than we have been working with the attorney on a towing policy.
Okay, why is
I believe-
Stoneybrook getting charged though? I don't understand that.
This is a question that you should probably during your advisory committee notes to the board, when you present to the board.
Well, that's why I'm bringing up now to get it into the minutes so they can see that.
It's nothing that I'm generating.
Okay, because I see here on 4.5, REM from AYS to Stoneybrook and parking issue, retrieve prior emails and memos and reply emails, $60.
Yeah, he may have been consulting me on it and having a discussion with me, but what I'm saying is I
then we
did not
shouldn't be.
initiate the conversation
It did not come from
regarding
you.
the
Okay, so
parking
there's another
issue
one
in
for 30.
Stoneybrook.
Okay. All right, well, let me say this. Somehow, somewhere, someone is taking phone calls from this one particular resident and then creating communication with the attorney based on those phone calls from that resident. I guess my main point is that resident has no authority to initiate any kind of action or activity on the part that should run up a bill within Gateway.
I do not provide the legal contact information to residents.
Well, I don't even think he called the attorney. I think he called someone in the office here. That's what my opinion
I've
was.
talked to a couple of your residents, but what I'm saying is I've never relayed a resident to the attorney directly. I don't provide that information.
All right, here's one REM from A. White. It says, from A. White, as to Mr. Tresh inquiries concerning, from CT, he might have called Cal. That may have happened, because it says, if you look at it, 314, go down about 3 pages. And you'll see there's something there from, for $120 as to status, R.E. Treesh, retrieve prior emails on the matter and resend to CT and send to A. White.
Yeah, I think the first time that I met Mr. Treesh was at a meeting here with council, Mr. Treesh and myself.
Then-
And so my point being is how the attorney addresses your residents and how the attorney charges is something that you need to address with the board. I have no authority there.
Who on top of the pages here, I can see here, and I know what happens when these things get reviewed. If you look at the top of the page, each one of the pages, it says number 004 with an account number. That's usually somebody identifying where those bills are getting sent to.
Yes,
And whose writing is that?
and that is, I'm signing off, that's AW, and that's because the attorney has allocated this whole section to Stoneybrook.
So he is the one making the decision, you're telling me, to charge Stoneybrook
Yeah,
when
so
a
that
resident
whole,
calls?
that whole section on his bill gets charged to Stoneybrook.
And he's the one making that decision?
Yes, that's his
Okay.
invoice, and he divides that up.
Very interesting.
And that's why it's beyond my authority.
I apologize to you, just the way this reads, you had to meet. It said it came
Right.
from April and from Cal Teague. And we will be bringing this up at the next meeting, and I don't think the attorney has the authority to determine who gets charged for what. These are not things that our community initiated. This was initiated by an individual who happens to live in our community, but he also lives in all Gateway, and he pays the full boat as any other community resident does. And if a phone call came from Gateway Greens or from Silver Lakes or anywhere else, this wouldn't be happening. It wouldn't be getting charged to that community. That's our complaint, my complaint, our board's complaint, and I guarantee you're probably gonna hear it from Margaret.
I understand.
All right, so it's on, I don't know if you got all that rant in the minutes there or not, but I do want that to be on the record, because this is not gonna be a dead issue, and I will talk to Tony about this. There were some things I did ask him to do, and most of that had to concern with the assignment of the contract. And I have no problem with that. That was initiated by us. But these other parking issues, every single one of those documents, we already had them. We had them in our file. This is, I know, but prior to you being here, we had responses on this already. Going back 3 years, I have a pile. We have one in the office, of documents from Tony on this subject and his opinions and references and some case law. And I don't think a resident should be able to call up and bring all this up again. If he had contacted us, we would have given it to him.
Okay, well, from now on, when I do receive questions, I'll direct them.
To the community, to the HOA, to this committee, okay? And that's what the purpose of the liaison committee is, and the advisory
Yeah, and this
committee is.
particular thing, as far as reaching out to Tony, Mr. Treesh had already, the way that I understand it, that was already in the works, I believe upon my arrival.
There was some issue on one that came down last
think
year.
we've
It goes
been
back to
communicating
2015. I agree, and we raised a stink about that, and he knows about it, that we were not happy. In fact, he's gonna be a lot less happy if we don't get this resolved, because he's gonna get billed personally for it. But I don't think the attorney should be billing us when an individual calls.
That's right. You should be billing the individual.
That's right.
Yep.
And, well, we have our own attorney. I mean, even when we did the review for the assignment of contract, our attorney reviewed it too. But yet we're willing to pay your attorney, because we're asking you to approve it. But we pay twice for that, effectively.
Okay.
This has been cooking inside me for a little while, if you can get a sense of it, because this is how it started before. In fact, how it started the last time, and I don't want to beat it to death, but we had our crosswalks painted. And while the guy was out here, the fellow who was handling it, who was the number 2 guy that used to work over there, that used to be our communication out in the field? I think you were here while he was still here, but he lost his driver's license, they had to let him go.
Jesse?
Jesse. Remember Jesse?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Jesse sent the guy to come out and paint our walks, and we were responsible for that. Well, while they did it, they did the walk across Gateway Boulevard. We were charged for the walk across Gateway Boulevard. And I brought that up to the then chairman, and his response to me was that, well, it isn't a lot of money, and we usually charge the communities who use it. This is on Gateway Boulevard. We pay Gateway Boulevard. We do pay, unlike one other community, and we pay to the 001 fund. That should be an 001 fund thing. It shouldn't have been charged against 004. And that was the beginning of a whole process that got pretty ugly. And there was a lot of history with flowways and lake maintenance that never should have been charged to us, engineering charges. In any case, we're very sensitive to this, and this is a hot button subject, and we don't want this starting again. I will bring it up. I'll be here at the next meeting, and it will be a discussion. Just real quick while you're here, because I guess Elle's not here, do you know if the,
She is here, but, and if you need her, she will come in, because she does leave.
okay, I know because she leaves because she's done working, I understand. Well, maybe April does know. Do you know if Aquagenics has finished the repairs on the lakes or not? I know we were waiting for some parts to fix that stuff.
Oh, the aerators?
Yeah.
I am not aware. I can find out.
Okay. I might need help, because there is a couple of things that I have here that she would know about. The only other question I have is billing for water. We had a house that we just foreclosed upon and took title to. It's not a clean title, because we can't find a bank who has paperwork to do this. But when I came in here and asked about the water bill and the sewer bill, because I know that it accumulates, it turns out it was already in our name, and that I couldn't figure out. You had to go back years to see an old resident's name who had walked away from the house. It's been a zombie house for several years now. How did our name get on the water bill?
Whose name was on the list?
Stoneybrook.
Stoneybrook HOA?
Yeah. If I give you the address, is it something you could look into?
Yeah.
It's 12380 Jewelstone.
12380 Jewelstone?
Yes. And I inquired about the water bill. They said, oh, it's already, I called, did it over the phone. And I'm not sure who I spoke to. I thought it was Julie. Julie says no. It might have been someone else here. I'm not sure. There's been turnover. But I don't understand how our name would be on it. And I'm also curious about what do we have to do.
So has it closed yet?
I would say we have clean title, so if you call that a closing, yes, we have title, not clean title. Right now, we're in the process.
So I would imagine typically utilities transact at closing. Typically in your title search, the utilities are.
In that, in this, and when you get these kind of foreclosures that are done in the back room of the courthouse, it bypasses all that. It happens without you even know. It happens without us knowing it sometimes when houses are sold or transferred in our community. We aren't even notified because you get these backroom, they call backroom deals, backcourt.
I suspect we got something was generated and provided because it's part of the title search.
Is there a
Okay.
stamp of when the name was changed?
I can double check.
Yeah.
'Cause that's right there, what's to tell. when
And
it was.
and there's nothing in the bank's name. We don't even know who the bank is right now. There's no paperwork. No one has paperwork. So we're trying to eliminate the bank as having any claim. We're in that process right now. But the fact is, though, we'd like to, it's gonna take us a little time to get this thing, it's a mess, and get done what we need to do, but I'd like to stop getting whacked with water bills on this thing in this interim. It could take some months. What can we do? I know in the past, they used to say we could
Have to look at the
disconnect.
policy.
Okay,
But, during those types of transactions, basically, the back bill has to be satisfied. It doesn't really matter who's claiming it. We can look in the policy to see if, the policy allows for any sort of penalty relief. But, Can't imagine why it
Well,
would, but I could
let
look.
me say this, the law as I understand it right now, on penalties and interest, if it's like a foreclosed house, you're not gonna get everything. Because of the Safe Harbor Act, the banks are protected to a minimum, because what we're gonna do is probably pay nothing. Let the bank take it away unless we can get them wiped out, because they probably have a big, huge mortgage on it, and the house isn't worth anything near that. So we're just trying to force the issue to get it produced, get it fixed, and get somebody living in there right now. But in the interim, you're not gonna get your money from the bank, you probably won't, maybe 12 months I'll go back.
Typically, the public responsibilities, the governmental responsibilities, the taxes, the public utilities are not waived for that.
Yeah, in fact, the taxes are being paid, and I don't know who's paying them, that's, yeah.
And the utility bills are lumped in with the same protection.
This
as
isn't
the property taxes,
yeah.
because we're a government.
Okay. So you're saying Safe Harbor Act won't protect them from that?
I
I
don't
think,
know for
I think
certain,
hard cost,
but-
you're right, but I'm not so sure about penalties and interest, but that's something to look into. And that will probably be most of the bill anyway, because no water's been used.
Do we have minimum in Gateway for water?
Yes.
We have base fees.
Yes.
What is the base fee? Just curious, I mean, it's no big deal.
I think it's right around 37.
Somewhere close to 40 would be my guess. Yeah. And on top of that, when you don't pay, you start accumulating penalties and interest, so it just really starts growing almost exponentially. And,
Is it the minimum 52?
It's up there, huh? Is that how?
That's what it is.
between, because the sewer got so high, the fix on the sewer maybe. I don't know.
Like 40 something.
In any case, we'd like to, avoid that going forward, because otherwise what we're gonna do is not gonna pay anything, I'm telling you right now. That's the board's position, until we can find out what the, who the bank is and what the story is with that, and then if we flip it and sell it, we'll try to,
Now that we're on that,
collect the
we should
water.
talk about Weatherstone. Aren't we getting a bill for Weatherstone for the vacant lot?
That's been greatly reduced.
Okay.
Yeah, we have that as a disconnect, literally, because we have no CO or nothing there,
Right.
just a piece of property. All right, that's it, I've vented. Thank you.
Elle's turn now.
Your turn, Elle.
Okay. Back to the hot seat.
Um,
You'll be fine.
I know.
Should we wait for Diane?
I don't know, yeah, she probably went in by the thing, but, we are being recorded, so there will be information. I just want to say for the record, that Cal Teague, who is the district manager, who from Severn Trent has resigned. Okay, and there are some other issues with Severn Trent, but I can't talk about that. Nevertheless, supposedly there's a Justin Faircloth and Stephen Bloom, who I know is from accounting, are going to try to fill in temporarily. Is that what you've heard?
You've heard more than I have.
Okay, possibly I
I
have.
try to stay in the back room or out in the wetlands
But
and
there's
landscape.
some turmoil going on, and leave it at that.
Before you already take your risk here.
Real quick, I just have a couple quick questions I want to
Okay.
follow up with you there, Elle.
Sure, no
One
problem.
is the water repair, the repairs for the aerators. Do you know if that's been completed yet or not?
It has not. Well, most of them have.
I know it has, but we're waiting for parts.
Yeah, well, most
could
of them
fabricate these
have,
things in
and
my
what
garage
we
faster.
did on two of the ponds, 60, and I wanna say one of them on 58. We were going to replace the vane set in the compressor, but that didn't work. So what we had to do was go back to the table and we're replacing the compressor. But all but two of them have been done.
Okay, that's what I was aware of. I think that's
Yeah,
status of where it was the last
Yeah,
time.
no, before there was some more that were still
Oh, really?
outstanding and the parts had not come in. But since then, those have been installed and actually the vane sets for those two particular compressors were, but it turned out not to really help it. It wasn't pushing enough air. So we're just holding on to the parts. We'll use them at another time when we might need to, but we're replacing those two compressors.
Okay.
So that's the last two remaining. And then we'll be all up again.
There is a tree that fell over behind one of our houses on Pebblestone. In fact, it's the first one. And it was a significant tree, and the landscaper did cut it up, the pieces that were down, but some of it's actually extended out into the lake. And
It fell into the pond.
Yeah, and you're almost gonna need a grapple hook and a cable to pull it out of the pond to be able to get it out of there.
Gotcha, I'll come down with some rubber boots.
Trust me, this is more than rubber boots when you see it. It really
Yeah.
is, it's a
Actually, I
substan-
have seen it,
Okay. It-
and I'm surprised the landscapers couldn't walk out there with some rubber boots and get it. I mean, you know, if I have to pay aquagenics to do it, I can do that too.
Now, is that the property owner's responsibility?
It was property owner's tree.
So it's gonna go
I'm
back
not,
to
I'm not saying whose responsibility is, that's not my,
Okay, once it gets into the pond though, it's still the property owner's responsibility?
Their trash back in the day.
Well, yeah, I know, it's a tough one. I know if a property owner's tree falls on your house, it's their insurance covers it, generally speaking, but in a situation like this, I wasn't sure. I'm a little surprised they didn't make a bigger effort either, also, because if they hadn't cut it all the way out into the water, which is what they did, they could have just put something on the end and tried to pull it in with a truck or
It looks to me like it's leaning toward the house. So it didn't fall into the water, it may have blown into it.
Blowing it,
You
you
know
can
that
grab
Sharon
it.
Ivans?
yeah,
Yeah, the limbs are pointing toward the house.
this tree's gone.
oh, no,
You're
yeah,
talking
all
about a
that's left
different
is,
tree.
all that's left is
There's a
the
stump
trunk.
and one
yeah.
little rinky-dink branch coming out the
Yeah.
side. I can't believe they take the whole thing down.
Yeah, this is down. I
Property
mean,
you talking about then?
Sherry and Ivans.
There's a tree in the water behind their house.
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's leaning toward the house.
So you think it could just be, you think it could be like a cypress tree that fell too?
No, I think you're looking at this, you gotta go back and look at it.
No.
A big tree went down, and when it went down, they came in and all they did was cut up what was laying down. There's an ugly looking stump still standing there, it's
Yeah.
about 8-10 feet tall, with a branch coming out of one side of it.
Not on Sharon Ivans' house.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
I was in their backyard this morning.
well then maybe they came
The
in, took more
stump
down.
The stump is about that far off the ground and it's clean.
Okay, maybe they came back and cut the
But
rest
there's
of it.
still a tree in the water.
Yeah, the tree in the water was the top of the tree.
It looked to me like the top, those limbs are pointed toward the house. Now, how do you get turned around?
I'll take a look at it tonight.
That's funny,
Probably the 4 or 5.
because it
That's not
wasn't
what
like
I
that
saw
the other
when I
day.
saw it, unless someone's done something to it.
Maybe somebody's tried to drag it out. I'll be down there again tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll be,
I was walking this morning, been gone for a while. I said,
Well, I was
"What's
out to the edge of the water,
that?" I was too. I walked right there and looked at it.
and I saw the clean cut facing me where they had cut to the point as far as they could reach out into the water.
Maybe they did drag it and
No,
turn it back
it's
around.
been turned around somehow.
Okay.
Oh, that makes sense then.
I'm not sure how. No, it doesn't make sense that it would have gotten turned around.
Maybe someone tried to pull it, and I don't know.
Is it that heavy? Is that big?
It could be.
I'm no weakling, and I can't do that
No,
myself.
it's too big to pull out by hand. Yeah, you need this equipment.
Yeah,
You know, it's in the weeds and the muck and everything.
yeah, and it is, it's substantial. It was a big tree, you can see by the size of the base of the tree.
Somebody else over there on the other side of the street must have had one struck by
Yeah,
lightning.
right across the street,
Yeah,
yeah.
So
There was,
the one
there were
next door to
rumors
us,
that
too.
somebody saw some twisting action going on at that intersection down
ah,
there. And I will tell you this, I live next block over, and the wind direction did suddenly change.
Just the one down next door to us.
Yeah, that went down.
The wind went, I mean, it was going one way, and all of a sudden, things were going horizontal, next thing I know, the wind's going the other
Took
way.
some panels out on Michael and Patricia.
It was a rough storm,
Yeah, it
for sure.
probably, you know, if it was a tornado, it probably wasn't even S0, but, you know, it was a good breeze blowing there, no doubt about it. And
Well-
it took some screens off some other houses, and there were other trees, we hit a tree we lost at the clubhouse, one of the oaks. In any case, if you can take a look at that.
I'll be back down tomorrow.
If you
and-
think it's the responsibility of the owner, tell me, okay? Because I'll get him to do it, and, you know, but I need to know.
Well, I'll just say, I was a little surprised that when the tree people came and cut off what they did, and they left that there, I was just a little surprised.
So was
because
I.
I could've walked out to it in my rubber boots and not gotten wet.
I think they got to a point they could reach out and cut, and then beyond that, they knew they couldn't get further than that, and that's what they did.
But yeah, really wasn't as deep as what they thought it was, though, because that spike rush is still, it's right in the spike rush.
Yeah, yeah.
And the spike rush is sticking up this tall above the water, so,
I'll try to play devil's advocate and say maybe they were concerned about disturbing the bank or something.
that could be.
Okay, so-
Yes, that is quite possible, and
Because they are landscapers, I don't know, I'll just,
we will look
Give me
at it from a
excuse.
different angle.
there you go. So that's something else. Aquagenics, water bill, legal bill. Anybody have anything for Al?
quick question, is everybody okay with our landscape enhancements?
Poor souls have,
Are we done?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be in our
Actually-
community.
Actually, you got extra plants. I went down there and I counted plants, literally got out and walked around and made sure that they had every single, and you have about 10, 15, 17, about 27 extra plants above
Okay.
and above what we,
Within the limited scope of budget, now this is for this year, we have money again for next year.
Mhm.
I think there's probably still some work that needs to be done.
agreed?
Could you give us a couple of more recommendations on that for us to review?
Sure.
Did Anchor ever come out and get?
That, we can't do that until after October 1st.
They did not come out yet and get those two, you said there was two streetlights that had just a
Yeah.
couple of small limbs. Next week, they are going to be in Gateway, again, to come in and do some more oak trees on the boulevard. And I told them about that. They said they have no problem. They will come down there, and I know the first one just passed the, guardhouse.
Right.
Where, do you
I'm
have?
not sure what the other one, Margaret told me.
I'll ask Margaret.
Okay. You know what you're talking about?
Yes, yeah, I'm pretty
Is,
sure I do.
is Mainscape supposed to be cutting the berm back
You
there?
gotta understand that Mainscapes does for us, they do for them, and we actually have two classifications in our community that they do. Some of what they own and some with Gateway and some in what we own. So there's like 3 different contracts going on.
It's a little bit confusing, and it actually gets a little confusing for a while. Their main office is in Indiana. So when they would see Gateway Services CDD/Stoneybrook, we were getting all of your invoices and everything here.
What's wrong with
It was just, they were just a little mixed up, and I can understand how they would do that, not ever seeing this property. But we've gotten that straightened out with specific new customer codes so that shouldn't happen. But it can be very
We have to be
confusing
careful.
because there's no obvious line in the grass.
There was a time that we were handling some things that really should have been you, and you were handling some things that should have been us, and it was just like, well, okay, it's a washout. I don't know if you get down to a lot of minutia, because there are areas that your property, our property, your property, as you're walking in a straight line there,
Right. Like I said, there's always that imaginary line in the grass, and it's really hard to find.
I
it.
noticed that they were out weeding today along the median.
Good.
Oh, that's really bad.
Yeah.
It is really bad.
Yeah.
It is really bad. And the bad side of that, and I don't know if I should say it in a public meeting or not, but, that's what happens when you get in a hurry. And you don't take the time to prep it ahead like you really would have done had you had the proper time frame to do it in. So sometimes when you get into too much of a hurry, you cut corners.
Understood.
And not that they cut corners, but they sprayed the sod, removed it, and planted,
What I didn't understand is, why didn't they use, and this isn't my position to say, but why didn't they use some kind of pre-emergent,
Yeah.
to stop it from, the seeds from growing?
Because you wanted the plants you were putting in there to grow too.
But the pre-emergent doesn't stop,
No, it generally won't
Germinated
a
plants.
potted plant, but,
okay, I'm thinking about stopping things from germinating, the new weed seeds, so
Right.
to speak. And that would have made a lot less work for them, I don't know, I've done that myself in
again,
the
I think a
past.
lot of it had to do with timing. We had to get that planted so they could come in and surface the road, get the asphalt done on the road. It was,
Well, this is.
you got to, basically it's like, okay, here it is, you have 2 weeks to get it done.
Anybody else have anything for oh? Thank you, do you have
Thank
any
you.
idea, give me an idea when the parts might come in for the aerators?
I do not have a estimated time of arrival right this moment. I'll be glad if our computers are back up tomorrow, I'll be glad to get with Aquagenic and call them and ask them. I do know that they may have it now. It should be very, very soon.
Okay, thank you.
I will get with them and ask them.
Appreciate it.
I went and snagged Chris, he's gonna talk to you about your stinky water.
Okay. Let's talk about stinky water. Thank you, April.
I'm sorry, Chris.
Have a good night.
Should we approve the minutes?
Yeah, we should. Give us a minute
Sure.
there real quick. Because we're gonna be at the end of the meeting and we will have 50 minutes from the previous meeting yet. Does anybody have any comments about the previous minutes from the previous
No.
meeting? Obviously, we had discussed discussed not having a meeting today, but
Well,
we did.
I can't believe that sheet was put in there.
Well, we did talk about it, I was
Yeah.
considering canceling.
we left it as tentative.
I'll
Yeah,
make a
and-
motion
Yeah.
to approve the minutes.
Second,
Any comments?
No.
Anybody have anything? All in favor?
Aye.
You're good. Did you get that, Diane?
Yep.
Okay.
You did call over, right?
Yes, yeah, before you got here.
All right, oh, you guys started before I got here?
Yeah, we started at 3 o'clock. It was a few minutes after. Actually, we started at 3:03,
No, because,
right?
no, because Tom came out at 3:02.
Yeah.
no,
When did you go, is my watch that wrong?
Yes.
Well, I don't know if that clock's right, but we were
Yeah.
going by that clock.
We're
I'm
going-
31.
it's pretty much right.
Couple minutes faster.
Yeah, it is a couple minutes, because I'm on
Well,
3:31.
apologize for that.
Okay. You got here 3:02 to my eyes.
All right, so the minutes are approved. Let's talk to Chris. Chris, we have met, I don't know if you remember, and I didn't have the little growth here at the time.
Oh,
but,
okay, sure.
But we were introduced. I chair the Gateway Stoneybrook Advisory Committee here, and JT's vice chair, and then there's the whole gang. If I
I'm
give you all the names,
Janice, the
you're not gonna
lady that
remember
has
any
the
of them.
smelly water.
Okay.
I have some smelly water too.
Yeah.
We all do.
Well,
In any case, can you just tell us, because I don't think they know who you are and what you're
sure,
doing, what your
utility
function is.
manager,
Okay.
And Janice called, and I spoke to her on the phone, and was sent, I wasn't aware, she mentioned, she said, well, some of the neighbors had also complained, and I said, well, we haven't had any complaints from anyone.
I confess, I did not complain,
I
but I
didn't
do
either.
agree with Janice that something had been going on the last couple of weeks for me, that I've
Last
noticed it.
couple weeks?
For me, anyway.
In my master bathroom,
Right.
and basically she notices it in the hot water, I notice it in the cold
No,
water.
when my shower first come on, the water is
Oh,
cold.
yeah.
So.
But it's coming through the hot water, you probably have it
Yeah.
all the way
Well,
up to the hot,
yes,
yeah,
but
but that's where it's
it's
all hot
coming
water,
on
it's
the
just not
cold.
hot.
Yeah.
And that sometimes is generated by something going on in the heated water.
But it smells like sewer.
I know it does. Hydrogen sulfide is generated there.
Yeah, sulfur, and when she talked, Terry went out there with Dan and flushed the line and checked the chlorine at the house at the hose bib, and the chlorine levels were fine.
Mhm.
Probably even a little on the high side, which that chlorine will typically knock any sulfur odor out of the water.
Usually the bacteria that generates it anyway.
Yeah. And what they did is they flushed her hot water heater, and I spoke to her and I said, well, I think one thing is too, you use a very small amount of water, and some of the, especially if you have, say, a second bathroom that you use for guests or isn't used a lot, said, go in there and flush the
Every now
toilets
and
and
then,
also
right.
run the shower. And if you don't wanna run the shower, she mentioned, she goes, I hate doing that, cause then I have the water spots, and I was like, well, you take a gallon pitcher and just pour it down. What it is sometimes that water will get stuck in the trap and stagnate, and if it's not flushing through, that's where you're generating the odor, not so much the water.
And even the trap in the sewer in the shower, I'm sorry, can dry out and you can get gases coming back up
No,
through
the
that.
shower thing is down there. This is up here where I am,
Mhm.
and the smell is right from the water.
As it's coming down, there is odor coming from water, I agree.
Yeah, it could, and a lot of times that hydrogen sulfide.
When you flush the hot water tank, what process do you use? How do you do it?
We just run a hose outside.
You do run a hose from the bottom of the hot water
Right.
tank and actually
Take
flush,
out.
not just running the water throughout the sink or
Right,
something
yeah,
like
just
that.
high volume it out.
Yeah.
And, clean it out, cause sometimes you will get some residual in the bottom where some buildup
Sits
of
there
that
and builds up,
bacteria,
right.
and then, and if you aren't using a lot, and then all of a sudden you turn it on, it's just pulling it up and siphoning out the tank. And, when I mentioned, I have it on my calendar to call you back to see if the odor
Well, I
is
still had it yesterday, in fact.
And I told her I'd come in there and pull some water samples and check the levels and see, from a laboratory standpoint, just where it is.
Well, I and you all live on Greenstone, which is at the end of the community, and have you
And I
noticed
live
that-
just down the street from
And
you.
you're right across the two of you are also at the same end of the community. Anything, nothing at all?
No,
Nothing at all.
I don't have
And
any.
you're at,
I'm on Greenstone at 12484. And I have to confess, we went through a period that was pretty good for a while there after you flushed the lines.
Right.
I think that might have been done before you came in.
right,
And they flushed it through the fire hydrants, and it did seem to make a difference.
and is that line dead in there, do you know? I can check.
I'm pretty sure it's dead going into Pebblestone. I think it does end at Pebblestone, and that was a complaint from Pebblestone residents going all the way back before you even turn over. So I'm talking like 2005,
So
2006.
it ends at my house?
It ends down there somewhere. I remember them saying that.
Yeah,
I was not even a board member back then, and I just remember that conversation coming from the board about there being a problem. There wasn't a loop down there, it was a dead end.
And your address is?
12545.
I'll give you my address, if Joe's saying it ends on the end of Pebblestone, that's
Is
my
that
house.
also Greenstone?
No, Stone Valley Loop.
Stone Valley.
But we're right across from each other. So you made left, you're on Stone Valley, you make a right, you're on Greenstone.
Now, that huge water pipe goes down beside my house, back into Hampton Park.
Yeah, there's something strange there. I know the water runs through Hampton Park and comes right next to your house.
Yes.
Runs on
There's
that
a
easement
huge-
right
yeah,
through there.
there's an
What's your
easement,
address?
12699,
If you
Stone
track
Valley.
the plumbing that was done there, there were issues. I know when Hampton Park had some issues, they
Oh,
created
yeah.
issues from us. Not that long ago either.
Okay. And if it's, I'm gonna look and see where the dead ends are on that line, like you said, when the hydrant flushing helped, and we'll go out there and check that out. What we could also do is, put an auto flush valve on it, and see if that's it, how much water's moving through there, and, cause the chlorine was up, but if there's several people right there on that same street, then.
Yeah,
Well, I'm on the opposite side of the street than they are.
It is funny, but we're all at that far end of the community. I just realized that sitting here
Yep.
thinking about it. In fact, the five of us are literally on a straight line. If, the two streets that oppose, we are on that one straight line, and he's on Pebblestone, which is the block before us. Have you had odor?
I haven't had any odor, I am having problems with my RO tank, and he's saying that I might need a pre-filter, the RO company. Says I might need a pre-filter because of too much settlement.
Yeah, well, a lot of times, what they'll do is they'll put a pre-filter on those ROs simply because they're very sensitive to any type of sediment or anything in that water.
In fact,
And it makes the RO filter last longer.
Well, my water bill's getting extremely high, and I couldn't figure out why. It's because my RO system's continuously running.
Backwashing?
Yes.
That's why, and you're getting
And
whacked
it
for
is-
sewer for that
And
too.
I'm getting whacked for sewer, and it is literally, I can sit there and just listen to it going down the drain.
I considered it some years ago, and I heard about the ratio of how much water is used to backflush that versus what you're really using. I said, no, that's not.
I use a lot of water, and I have an under-counter ice maker too, so it feeds that, so that ice is being made, it's melting, it's a constant waste. But I am gonna buy a zero waste attachment to it, and it will feed the hot water tank. And that's $150.
That would be interesting how well that works, too.
What it is, and it's on sale today, and I'm probably not buying it today, what it is, instead of it going down your drain,
Right.
it pumps into your hot water tank, and so you have zero waste.
This is a recycle from
It's
the
just
RO, so
recycled
it
from
should
the
be
RO
fine.
system.
Yeah.
So, but for $150 for what I'm spending right now on my water bills, it would probably pay for itself in 6 months.
Well, it'd be interesting to watch that and see.
I'll let you know. I'll let everyone know. So
Well,
you get some good water again.
And I'll tell you what, to try to address that, we'll go out and I'll, look at the maps and see where we can flush the system.
Well, if you need to call me after, say, 11 o'clock, because I go for therapy in the morning.
I've got your, schedule, but let me try doing that, in the next 2 days, and then we'll give it a couple days over the weekend and see if that
Okay.
helps.
Water, sewer, big
And,
door.
same thing too, maybe in that shower, just pour a gallon jug down the trap and,
Yeah, and you don't even,
for
and you don't
a
have
week
a
or two
pool,
and
because
see if that
sometimes.
helps.
A gallon jug of what?
Water.
Oh, just water, okay. And the spare one,
And
okay.
I've gotten complaints before like that too, because some people, they'll have a guest bedroom and bathroom and they
And
never
the water
use it.
doesn't get used a lot.
And then all of a sudden they'll call and say, well, the water's discolored, and I'm like, when was the last time you used it? Oh, the last time we had company 4 months ago. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You have to run the water some.
In fact, in our showers, they have those anti-scald valves, and if you don't get it over to hot once in a while, they get stuck in cold, and and the hot water don't come on. That's happened.
We had to have ours replaced in our guest
Well, there's a
bathroom.
little cartridge in there that with a pressure-sensitive valve flops back and forth, and you can pull it apart and take it out, and I've
So
cleaned
maybe-
it.
Maybe you should just turn your water heater down and forget about that valve.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, the fact is that my hot water is not hot. It isn't real hot. In fact, I'm low on the
Same here.
temperature scale. But no, it just, something comes through the water. But when I replaced it, the actual little valve that's in there, that little stainless steel thing that flops back and forth in there that senses pressure. And it's like a little mixing thing. It hasn't acted up since, so they may have coated it with something, I don't know.
Yeah, and something interesting came up on Stoneybrook when we were out there, because one of the homeowners had complained that they had a sewer backup.
Stone Tower or Stone Valley?
Stone Tower.
Stone Tower's.
Stone Tower Loop, yeah.
Yeah. And, they said, yeah, it
Tree.
backed up, and the plumber said, you know, it was, on your side, and blah, and I said, well, you know, that we went out there and checked it, and on our clean out, everything
It was
was running
fine.
fine. And, I said, but I don't wanna leave it, that we're right, you're wrong, and they said, oh, we also have problems when our neighbors have parties, and, well, but anyway, I said, I'll tell you what, I see on the plumber's receipt, you wanted us to pay for it, but you declined to have the camera go down the line to see where it is. I said, how about we do this? You can pick the contractor, we'll, camera the line, we'll be out there. I said, our problem, I go, we pay for the camera, we fix the issue, your problem.
It's on you.
Bill, and, we went out there, and, turned out that once you went about 23 feet from the house, the sewer line was kinda caved in, and, all the debris was stacking up there, and then when we pushed it past and went there, it was perfectly clear and everything was running, so we pasted off and said, well, here it is, and
So
sorry
they
to
dug
say-
down and pieced in a piece of pipe in there?
Well, what was interesting is the plumber, when he got up and we pasted off, and he goes, well, I've seen this before. He said, what is it? He goes, landscaping people, when your tree came in, guidelines,
Aha.
they staked that in, and that
In the
was
pipe.
right where, when you looked at the indentation in the sewer drain line, it was like
Right there.
perfectly square going in right there, and he goes, yeah, he goes, we've gotten a lot of these, so sometime, you know, you think about it, but they don't know where your line, you know, they're pounding those things in.
Yeah.
And it didn't cause a problem for the longest time,
Until-
but as that debris started getting.
Accumulated.
caught-
Happened to Maryland,
Yeah.
New Year, Christmas Eve.
One of the problems you're gonna find in all of Gateway is, that especially the older communities, is the oak trees, the roots. Big time. We're pulling trees out all over the place. I know Gateway Greens was doing it before us, cause they were even older and had more mature trees, and it's just squeezing those sewer lines and crushing them. It really
Did they
is.
have to replace that sewer line then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did, and we said, you know, you could go in and sleeve it, but you probably just wanna, you know, replace the whole thing from the house to our
They
clean
did
out.
from the house all the way down, okay.
Yeah, and,
Interesting.
I told him, I said, it's gonna cost more than that $250 camera job.
How much depth does those sewer lines go, start out at?
Coming off the house, it's probably at about 18 inches. And it drops, and of course, by the sidewalk or getting there, we have a clean out, and that's what I said, look, if you pull ours open, it's
Free and clear.
rolling, so
Yeah.
it's, you know, but I wanna bring your situation to a resolution too, so I guess that's not what I'm trying to illustrate with that story, but.
In fact, on their street, they pulled all the trees out, all the oak trees, except one. Pulled out for that
And we
reason.
had a plumber twice because the roots from the oak tree were going around squeezing the, not the sewer line, but the water line.
Coming in.
And so we were having water kind of bubble up out of the ground.
You know, once that makes a little leak too, you get even more roots, cause then they just start hitting right to that.
So, you know,
bottom.
we had a plumber there twice.
Yeah.
Anybody have,
Same thing.
anybody have anything else for Chris?
No?
All right, well, appreciate you coming
I will,
in.
yeah, I'll get to call you, and you can inform his neighbors, and we'll go out there and flush the lines and see if
Okay.
it helps. And,
Appreciate it.
and we'll pull some water chemistry the following week if it does.
And
Just
I'm the
see.
last villa, and then it's a single family home,
Right.
and that water line goes right down the middle of that easement.
Okay, well, thank you, and
Okay,
hopefully we
thank
get
you.
to the bottom of it, I appreciate the information.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
That's why I have so much
Um,
room
I
on my
have-
house, because of that water line.
Okay, can I have your all attention? I want to wrap this up before, and I'm sure we will. There has been some issues, and there's been legal letters going around and at various meetings that COMA and other association managers have with attorneys. After what happened in
Disney?
Disney at Orlando, yeah, with the alligator and the kid, now everybody's getting a little bit sensitive about whether we should have alligator signs by our lakes. And I understand that, I was told by Margaret, that Gateway is looking into the cost and getting bids Does that ring a bell with you?
I think they are, yes, yeah.
Okay, so from that perspective, I'm just letting you know that, our HOA board will see what happens with, what Gateway does. But it doesn't preclude us maybe of considering recommending to them that we do put a sign up at the entryway at least, that, you know, there's wild animals, there's gators, there's snakes.
Hey, yeah.
We didn't put them there and, you know, and we didn't entice them or whatever, and, there's always risk.
They're all over Disney right now.
Yeah, I know. Well,
They're inside the parks, too, they're in the parks where the, like, where you
Yep.
get the little Swiss Family Robinson tree thing, they're there now.
We're gators, yeah. Well, that's understandable. It got international attention and, you know, but every community in this, in Florida that has lakes and ponds and canals, I can guarantee you at some
Yep.
point in time
Sure.
has alligators. The thing is, alligators get up and walk in, they walk out, and they can be there today and not tomorrow, you know, and vice versa.
Between my house and the neighbor's
But
house.
we are, but at least,
They hide in the tree, you see that one in Cape Coral, the thing was in the tree.
At least you're addressed,
I
it's
saw
being
one,
addressed.
that maybe was posted on Facebook, probably from YouTube, that would climb right over a fence.
Oh,
Yeah,
they-
I saw that.
Yeah, I saw that
Jeez.
too.
The Cape Coral one, the one in the tree was, that really shocked me, cause it was like, is that an iguana? Oh, no, that's a gator.
When I used to work for the school district, we used to have to stop dismissal, cause they'd be on the bus ramp, and kids were going to load buses.
I remember that when I was at Trafalgar Middle. We had gators that would come up in there. I don't know, so if Gateway Services puts them in, we'll probably end up putting them in too then, or?
No, they'll be putting them at the lakes, because they own the lakes.
So this isn't our responsibility.
At this point in time, that was my recommendation in an email, if you read it, I sent to the board.
I did read it, I don't
Yeah,
remember seeing that part of
and
it.
then I said that maybe the owner of the lakes, Gateway Services in parentheses, should be looking at this, and they are.
When I walk out in my backyard, I forget to look. You know, and all of a sudden I'm standing there and I was looking.
Well, I will say this, unless one has walked in from outside the community of any substance or decent size, if something reaches a certain size, we get it out, we do, we don't let it hang around.
I haven't seen one for.
Not
Earlier
recently.
this year.
No, there's, trust
Yeah,
me,
there's some
I see
small
it.
ones out there. Earlier this year, we had one that was resting right behind Paul Gilmeier's house. Used to sun there in the afternoon. And it, you know, I think it would have run away from you, but it might have been 5 feet, you know, front to back.
There's a good 6-footer that came through behind my house maybe 2-3 weeks ago.
Don't know where they're coming from. But I haven't seen him. He was there for a couple weeks. They actually called somebody out. They tried to get him.
They never get,
Went out to the middle of the lake and went down, and they waited around and never saw him again.
they made it that night too.
Yeah, did they?
Yeah, they left the line up. They had to call it.
Yeah, no, he could have walked out. Well, in any case, I just to reiterate that if a resident calls, it really should be referred to us or to the Stoneybrook board. Don't start running up legal bills because a resident calls, or either that or make them aware he's gonna get charged for it. All right, so the alligator signs.
Who do you want that to go to directly?
It can go to this.
Paul or?
Go to me and Paul, go to both of them, and possibly even Christie in the office. If you have her email, I think you do. All right, water and sewer bills, you know, this thing with the zombie houses, I don't know about this house, I hope that April can come up with something. Is there any committee requests, audience requests, any issues to bring up?
I see that our Comcast
Wait, we didn't talk about that.
contract is
Your email, please.
two more years.
Yeah.
No,
That's in here?
It's in the minutes.
It's in the minute, well, on,
Okay. Well, strangely enough,
Attached.
Dan Klein is the president of one of the sub-associations across the street at the Villages. And that particular community is really run by the sub-associations, you know, each one, they're very independent and separate from each other, little clusters over there. And their bill, they had a 10-year contract when they started, and their bill will be up in a year. And I just got this the other day. And, he's looking what to do and how to deal with Comcast, and I did respond, you guys didn't see it, I sent it to the board members. and you probably saw it.
I saw it, but I could've sworn I saw it the night.
No,
it
no,
was-
it was
No, it's-
emailed out.
Yeah, I know, I saw it.
And so, we're 2 years out, and this is the time I'd like to get set up a committee and get started, because the search is such that it does take time, and then whatever you do come up to, the conclusion you come up to, you need the approval of the community, because
Yeah.
it's a big contract. And then you gotta sell it and make a decision. There's probably gonna be some town hall meetings talking about this and what our options are. And I know there are some in our community that want to completely eliminate it all, let everybody go on their own. I'm not sure that's the best, but this is the chance you have to leverage if you wanna stay with Comcast, but otherwise, I think there are better options out there, and we'll look at them.
You know, I have friends down in Naples, and they have everything bundled in through their HOA, their internet, their,
Who, is it Hotwire? Do they
I
have-
don't remember.
Okay, because that's one of the possibilities with Hotwire. You get better service, a nicer package for less money, but the fact is, it's still gonna be more money to the average person who doesn't use it all, and that's a tough sell.
But most of our people are using,
I think everyone in our community has to have some sort of, the telephones are almost a free give anymore.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
most everyone has some sort
Internet
of,
and
TV.
TV.
Internet
And upgraded on the
cable or
TV.
something.
Yeah,
Upgrading on the
Xfinity
TV.
and all that stuff.
What don't you have?
I don't upgrade my TV at all.
No, but you have cable.
Yeah. yeah.
Internet, but we have basic, it's like $39.
For the cable.
Well,
For the
it's
internet.
No,
what's,
for the internet,
it's what's through the HOA.
no.
No, you pay $39 for your Comcast, right, for your internet?
That's it.
Alright, so say your HOA went to 130 instead of 111 every month, but you had a quicker, higher speed internet,
I don't want to go to higher speed internet.
but
I
you're
don't
saving
use it
money,
that much.
but you're saving money, you're saving $12 a month.
Do you understand what you're saying?
No, I don't.
In effect, she's paying a separate bill right now on top of what she pays through the association.
Yeah, I do too.
There will be no additional separate bill anymore. It'll all come through the association.
Huh?
I don't want a phone.
Most phones are, that's usually a free.
Actually, the phone's a freebie.
I
Yeah.
don't want one though. I
Yeah,
don't
neither
want
do
one.
I.
Well, then you don't have to take it.
I just,
In any
Yeah,
case,
landlines are.
Where everything's
they're out.
bundled.
yeah, it's a bundle. That's something to probably be discussed at our community, not here.
With taxes, $15.
That is something that I wanna take charge on too, though.
All right, that's
I know
fine.
you're
We'll
more-
talk about that at our
Long
next
distance.
committee, next board meeting, and we'll
They're
bring
all
up committee.
on free.
I'll ask again, does anybody have anything, opinions or any issues, things you'd like to bring up?
I don't have opinions.
It's only
Okay,
because
yeah,
we
yeah.
have the 333
How about
that
you?
we pay.
Anything?
People on the outside, it doesn't work that way.
Okay, next meeting date is proposed as September 7th.
I will not be
How can it be,
present.
how can it be the 7th?
Because the first meeting, a board meeting is the first.
Yeah, but I thought we're always the second Wednesday in the month. But you're,
That might be the second one.
That is
It
the
has to
first
fall
Wednesday.
between the two meetings. It's always between the two meetings.
I see.
It's not the order of the Wednesdays.
It just usually works
It's-
that
it's
way.
all- I think it's all
JT,
works that way.
what
Works that
day,
way,
what
but-
day is Labor Day?
I think it's the
The
4th
first
or the
one.
5th, something like that.
Okay, I won't be at the next meeting.
How about everybody else?
I should be here.
I don't know, it's debatable for me.
I always have my office meeting the day of this meeting, that's how I always know there's a meeting today.
I know I won't be.
Will you be on the 7th, your office meeting?
No, I'll be around. No, I think my office meeting's on the 14th.
Shall we say tentatively call it the 7th then? Take care.
Did you say call off?
No, call it. Call it
Oh, call
the
it.
7th.
Okay.
And I'd say tentatively.
Okay.
If there's an issue with attendance, we'll
Yeah.
maybe kick it back a week or something. We'll see.
I will not be there.
I don't think we can kick it back a week.
What's the 14th?
That's another meeting, right? Don't you
It's
guys-
after the other meeting.
I won't make,
It would be the day before the board meeting.
The second board meeting is,
September, it's the first and
There's five
15th.
Thursdays in September.
oh, so then you're gonna go the last 2 weeks of the, a month
let me
with
tell
nothing?
ya,
You're looking
sometimes
for
I
it.
need that.
I got you. I can recommend a third meeting that month if you like.
Well, I go through that during budget.
Yeah.
I have had, I bet, 3 extra special meetings on top of regular meetings.
have nothing.
All right, I'll take a motion.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second it.
And JT gets the second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're done. We're off. Yep.
Hey,
I'm gonna
Joe,
go right.
Joe,
Minute.